Good morning. My name is John Talk. I'm privileged to be the rector here at Emmanuel Episcopal Church, and we are in our church conference room, our church library, talking a little bit about growth in God's kingdom. We talk about restoration all the time. We talk about wholeness and coming back into relationship with God, coming back into relationship with other people. But the next few weeks, we wanted to spend some time thinking about not necessarily when God restores us to wholeness, but rather when God creates in us something new, when we grow through our relationship with God. So one place where we see restoration would be in Lot's life. Lot was married with children and lots of flocks, and then that was taken away from him. And then at the end of the story, Lot is once again married with children and lots of flocks. So he was completed, he was made whole, he was put back into the situation into which he had once been. But we want to spend some time looking at those spaces where God changes us, or where we are changed through God's love, where God takes us from one place of being into another one. And where better, when we're talking about going from one state of being to another, than looking at the first chapter of Genesis. Now, next week, we're going to look at the second chapter of Genesis. There are two different stories, but this week, the first chapter of Genesis. I'm reading from the Tanakh, which is published by the Jewish Bible Society. It is the Jewish community in the United States translation of the Hebrew Bible into English. Genesis chapter 1, or at least most of Genesis chapter 1. When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep and a wind from God sweeping over the waters, God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness God called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, a first day. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the middle of the water, that it may separate water from water." God made the expanse, and it separated the water which was below the expanse from the water which was above the expanse, and it was so. God called the expanse sky. And there was evening and there was morning, a second day. God said, "Let the water below the sky be gathered into one area, that the dry land may appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of waters he called seas. And God saw that this was good. And God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation, seed-bearing plants, fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit, and the seed in it." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, seed-bearing plants of every kind, and trees of every kind, bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that this was good. And there was evening and there was morning, a third day. God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate day from night. They shall serve as signs for the set times, the days and the years, and they shall serve as lights in the expanse of the sky to shine upon the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to dominate the day, and the lesser light to dominate the night, and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the sky to shine upon the earth, to dominate the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that this was good. And there was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. God said, "Let the waters bring forth swarms of living things and birds that fly above the earth across the expanse of sky." God created the great sea monsters and all the living creatures of every kind that creep, which the waters brought forth in swarms, and all the winged birds of every kind. And God saw that this was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fertile and increase, fill the waters and the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, a fifth day. God said, "Let the earth bring forth every kind of living creature, cattle, creeping things, and wild beasts of every kind, And it was so. God made wild beasts of every kind and cattle of every kind and all kinds of creeping things of the earth. And God saw that this was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. They shall rule the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and cattle and the whole earth and all the creeping things that creep on earth." And God created man in God's image. In the image of God, God created him. Male and female, God created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fertile and increase. Fill the earth and master it, and rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and all the living things that creep on earth." God said, "See, I give you every seed-bearing plant that is upon all the earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit. They shall be yours for food, and to all the animals on the land, and to all the birds of the sky, and to everything that creeps on earth, in which there is breath of life. I give all the green plants for food." And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and found it very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. We don't often listen to this story enough. We think we know it. I don't know about you, but about halfway through, as I was reading that, I was zoned off thinking about something entirely else. I had to recollect myself and bring myself back into hearing that story as I read it. But I want us to pay attention to it for one very simple reason. We hear over and over again, we heard 6 different times, that God created something from the void, that God created something from the chaos, that God created something from chaos, from the void, for the simple expedient of God's word. That God spoke and reality changed. That reality in this world, reality for you and for me and for all the creeping things on the earth and the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, the reality of the sun and the moon changed because God spoke, that God used God's words. This is important. This is important first. And if you get nothing else from this, this is it. Words matter. Words create reality. In a very real sense, this is true. I'm not going to go into it today, but other cultures can see, literally, physically can see different colors than Americans can, simply because they have different words for those colors. I can give you the literature if you're all interested. But more importantly, for us, words create and words destroy relationship. Words create love and words destroy love. Words create families and words destroy families. Your words create your world. Your words grow your world. Your words create trust, grow trust. Your words create an environment in which others can feel safe and secure. Your words matter. I pray that all of our words can be as God's word, that is, good. Many blessings. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday, where we're going to be taking a look at chapter 2